There's one thing we all have in common in the trades. We build the world around us.
And the real question is, what are you building on and off the job site? We want to know.
Because this life is more than just the work. It's your health, your family, and your mindset.
This isn't just about tools and job sites. It's about building better homes, better businesses, better lives.
From contractors and entrepreneurs to leaders shaping the future of the trades.
No fluff, no shortcuts, just real conversations.
This
is the Trade Life.
Should we do it at the same time?
This is the Trade Life.
One more time. This is the Trade Life Podcast. There it is. Today we're talking... Were we going to start at the same time?
No, you were starting. Go.
Okay. Today we are talking all things mindset. I think in entrepreneurship, in life, relationships, big component of that is having the right mindset to move forward, because nothing in life has taught me anything, is easy. So you need to have the mindset to get through those difficult times.
Yeah, totally. I think social media is just sort of flooded with like aspirational accounts and aspirational posts. And I think especially for men specifically, there's a lot of accounts geared around, it's almost like a military kind of like,
who's going to save you?
Yeah. Like toughness and all this kind of bullshit. And it's kind of got me thinking over the past sort of week. That's just sort of the latest topic I've been thinking about around what sort of feeds into mindset specifically related to being an entrepreneur. Right. So this isn't the like, hey, this is how, like, to be a man, you need this mindset or anything.
Yeah. To have a good mindset, you have to do this.
It's from lived experience, being successful, being an entrepreneur, building something, building a brand, building a company. What does it take from a mindset standpoint? And I think that's the key, and I think that's what we want to kind of dive into today, right?
And I do think it's funny, I made a joke about who's going to save you. I think the truth is, at the end of the day, I'm like, I joke about that, but a big part of your mindset is knowing that you're in the driver's seat and that you're in control. And at the end of the day, and this is something that in my younger years, I wish I could go back and change. I think in my younger years, I just thought like things were going to happen to me, when it's really that you're in control to make things happen for you versus like, they're just gonna happen to me. It's like, no, you have to make them happen.
Yeah.
You might get opportunity, but you have to then seize that opportunity and do something with that.
Yeah, totally. I know a lot of people in my life where, it's funny you say that because it just kind of sparked this, where I've often looked at them and thought their approach to life is that life is something that happens to them, right? They're going to work, they're kind of doing their things and stuff just happens. Good and bad, right? Like whatever, the winds of fate or whatever. I don't know what their expectation is, but it's like they never like man up, and woman up, whatever. But like take charge of your own life, right? And that's I think as we dive kind of deeper, that's sort of the core piece around having a mindset that's I'm trying to be cautious not to like veer into the cheesy and be like a winning mindset and all that kind of stuff.
But like there's a reason the cheesiness and like there's a reason the cliches work. It's because like you have to have that losing is not an option.
Yes.
You have to have that mindset, especially in business and being an entrepreneur. You're not working for someone else. You have to create the opportunities.
Yeah.
They're not just coming to you. You're creating these opportunities and then you're planting those seeds to grow something from those opportunities. And that just doesn't happen by chance.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to start off, the biggest thing is accountability and personal accountability, right? And if you're younger, if you're just, considering going out on your own, the biggest question you have to ask yourself is, I guess there's an aspect of can you become this way, but also looking back and being honest with who you are. Are you fully accountable to yourself, right? Not to your boss or to your partner or your coach or like whatever it is. Are you fully accountable to yourself? Because at the end of the day, going out on your own, starting your own business, building your own brand, the only person that you're accountable to is you, right? Especially in the early days. As you start building up, like you start getting into a spot where there's a lot of people that rely on you, and that's a whole different level of responsibility. But in the early days, you need to be able to put yourself out there, and you need to be able to face the fact that failure is a very real possibility, and you need to be okay with the fact that you might fail, right? So let's say you go out, you start a business, it fails. Are you okay with your peer group looking at you and judging you, right? Not fair, but like people will, your family, right? I told you that was a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Like, fuck you, man.
Yeah.
Right? But like you have to be able to sit there and say, no, I am going to do this. And in the early days, you're doing it for you. And that's it. And you got to like be honest about that.
I think that's a good way to structure this conversation is chronologically. So I guess we're talking about starting a business and being an entrepreneur. I like where you started. And that's, are you afraid of failure? Unfortunately for me, and my wife may agree, unfortunately, the best places that I learned in life, the best lessons that I learned in life were through failure. And there are these cliches that say, you either win or you learn. There's no losing, there's only learning. And I actually really like that. I know, yes, okay, there's losing, but if you can't, through your losses, take some sort of accountability or some sort of lesson from that loss, then it is a failure. But if you can say, this relationship, I look at my past relationships before my wife and I think, why didn't those work out? Maybe I was too controlling, maybe I was too jealous, maybe I was too, whatever it might be, but same thing in business. You're like, why didn't this work? You have to be able to, in your failures, look at why it actually failed and reflect and think, what role did I have to play in that?
Yeah, totally. I think also with the early days, I like that. I really like that sort of mindset of you either win or you learn. And it sort of brings up a good point about, especially the early days of starting a business. And just being an entrepreneur, business owner in general, that the successful ones, I think the thing that separates a successful business owner from an unsuccessful one isn't necessarily skill in business. It is the willingness to push through the shitty times. And I'll give you an example. When I first started going out on my own, I had a former partner that we started off together. It was carpentry, right? We very quickly, we went out on our own. We decided, okay, let's give this a shot. And we progressed pretty quickly to having, I want to say we had about 6 carpenters at this point in the story. On staff. And I remember there was a period of time, 6 weeks, where I couldn't pay myself because I needed to ensure that I could make payroll. And it was that difference between me saying, I'm going to make sure that I keep my staff happy and going versus, oh my God, this isn't working. I'm not taking home a paycheck. I wasn't in some good financial situation to be able to do that. It sucked. It was a struggle, right? Between me and Leanne, she was working 2 jobs, right? 60, 70-hour weeks. We had just bought a new house. I think had just finished the renos at this point, so we had some debt we were trying to service. And it wasn't comfortable, right? I had a cash flow analysis, I ran the numbers, I kind of looked at it, and I knew we had a couple receivables that I was expecting. So I made the bet and pulled through, right? And then I could pay myself. But it took a while for me to pay myself well. It probably took years, I don't know the exact number, but it took years before I was the most highly paid person in my company. I was paying carpenters more than myself for a good while. And I think that feeds into that mindset of I was out to build a business and I was okay with the pain of that, right?
Well, and I think one thing I've learned about you over the years is that you've built a good team around you. And it's not just you're very careful who you choose to bring into your circle, and then you're betting on those people.
Yeah.
And I think just by hearing your story there, you're basically saying I believe this is going to work. So I'm not just going to be selfish about this and say well, no, I need all my chips. It's no, I'm going to invest in this and I'm going to go through the hard times because I know my vision is worth sacrificing and it's worth going through these hard times.
Absolutely. You have to be able to, and again, trying to keep it specifically about mindset, right? Mm-hmm. And not get into process and all those kinds of things. In those moments, you have to have the mindset that is willing to push through the struggle, push through the pain, the challenges, air quotes there for people just listening.
Yeah.
There's a number of points when you're first starting to run a business that are super challenging, right? You're going to have financial risk, you're going to have financial pressures, financial strain, you're going to have nights that you can't sleep, right? Because you're thinking about, can you make your payables? Are your receivables coming in on time? That impending warranty cost, right? Maybe it's a warranty cost that you know is coming, but it hasn't hit you yet, right? You're going to have legal exposure at some point, somewhere, running a business. Something is going to happen. You're going to have some form of legal exposure. I remember the first one we had was it was a lawsuit that we encountered, and man, that thing kept me up for probably 6 months, right? Just thinking about it and the possible damage that it could have done. And it was just a really bad contract and a really, really, really bad client. One of these 1 in 1,000, 1 in a million, hopefully types of people that are just pure evil,
Yeah.
Just like a shit person that took advantage, incredibly intelligent shit person that took advantage of a not airtight contract. Early days for us, we didn't invest in contracts. Separate thing. That is a process discussion that we should talk about later, but specifically really keeping it on the mindset train. Again, it was having that bigger vision and being able to push through that, right? Shortly after that, on the timber solutions front, when we made that big bet on panelization equipment, we almost went bankrupt. We had a landlord that was evicting us, almost went bankrupt because there was the eviction, and then a BDC loan fell through. And because of that, we almost went bankrupt. Like, it was close to $1 million we were expecting to come in that we ended up not getting. So then it was scramble, try to find money to finance it. Probably could have just bankrupted the company and walked away. I could not do that. We employed 30 carpenters at the time that relied on the company. I'm going to be honest, like, it sounds corny. More than anything, I kept the company afloat to ensure that I could keep those carpenters employed.
But you knew, here's the difference, there's a couple things here. One, you knew how much work it took to get all those carpenters, all the vetting process. And I think that's why now you've launched Project Network. You didn't have that tool back then. So you knew how much work it went into finding those quality people.
It would have been easier if we had Project Network.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it wouldn't have been maybe as stressful. But so you're like, okay, if I have to let these people go, and then, okay, maybe in a year from now, I can pick back up. Maybe once we figure out the financials. But then all those people, this structure that you've built, they're working somewhere else. Yeah. They've made other commitments. Not only that, they're depending on receiving a salary to pay their bills. So when you were those nights, say, you hear people say, it kept me up all night. Yeah. What was going through your mind?
Am I going to be able to keep this company afloat?
Yeah. But how does that, there's that, but then the reality of how that impacts you, how that impacts your family.
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge thing. And honestly, I need a psychologist to weigh in here. I don't know if this is good or bad, but a big piece that keeps me going through that kind of stuff, and I think this feeds into the sort of entrepreneurial mindset. Again, not the right mindset, just like what feeds into an entrepreneur's mind, is almost like a fear of failure, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't want to be viewed as a failure in the eyes of, didn't really care about my peers, never cared too much about what my peers think of me, but my family.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm out in business to win and to do things a better way, but I do care what my family thinks of me. My mommy and dad, my kids are too young they love me no matter what. That'll change, I'm sure, when they get older, but they'll start judging me.
Yeah. But it's important to have, here's the thing, in having a mindset, I think you have to have a why. Why am I doing this? And you touched on that there because you said, I am afraid of failure. You want to succeed, but you also don't want to let your family down. And I share a very similar belief in that. Yeah. I'm very hard on myself, but I'm also, I think now, especially with 2 kids, a wife, mainly it's my wife. I'm like, I can't fail. Yeah. Because I have this belief. I have this maybe toxic belief in myself that I'm like, this is going to work. That through those hard times where there are sleepless nights, there are high stress where you feel distracted all day because you just think, how am I going to get through this? But there's this underlying belief of, I just know it's going to work.
So I'm going to tease this out because I think we're going to get somewhere deep here now.
Okay.
I'm going to challenge you on that. I think the motivation to provide for your family, often cited, I think it's not true.
Okay.
I think the bar to provide for your family is pretty low, and you can do it with a union construction job. Yeah. Right? If you have 2 solid earners, unfortunately you do need 2 solid earners. If you're not living in downtown Toronto, right? Like, if you make some good financial decisions, you can provide for your family. Yeah. And you can be very happy, and you can be proud as a father and as a mother doing that. I think what drives high achievers is not that. I think sometimes we wrap it up and say, it's for my family. It's not.
Yeah. And I agree with you, because when I think provide for my family, it's probably not the same way of providing that maybe the next guy does.
A bit more for sure, but I bet a lot of it is you want to impress. You want to succeed. You want to win, right? Mm-hmm. And there might be something like, okay, that'll make your family proud. But I think, and this is where, I think we can get somewhere deep here. I think this is what separates a high achiever from not high achievers. And this is what feeds into the mentality. And again, like, I'm not going to sit here and say this is the right way to do it. There's probably a whole bunch of psychological things that run into this. But I will say, and as I mentioned, I've been thinking about this over the past kind of weeks. I'm glad we chose this topic. And I know you came into this cold.
Yeah.
But it is, I started thinking about what is the difference between the way a high achiever thinks, and for purposes of this, specifically to an entrepreneur, business owner, versus entrepreneur, right? One of the things that kind of started teasing this out was I saw a post on Instagram. I feel like everything I think about comes back to a post on Instagram.
Yeah.
And it was about triathlons, and it was the average income of competitive triathletes, and not even competitive, but people that like consistently do triathlons, is $200,000 a year. And it was why. It was one of them is because it's a really fucking expensive sport. It's really expensive when you start diving. I am not a triathlete, but I understand the cost.
Ultra marathons aren't far off.
No, they're far cheaper. You don't need to buy a $10,000 bike.
Okay, but
The bike's better. But then the second point was successful people do hard things. I was like, man, that's freaking true. I think about myself. I thought about it again this morning when I rushed in, had to get a day of filming in. I had intervals on my running plan. Man, I don't want to do intervals at 6:30 a.m. That's awful.
Yeah.
I can wake up, go for an easy run, no problem. Like I do that every day. But doing hard intervals at 6:30 a.m., it freaking sucks. So as I was in the middle of sprinting down the rail trail by my house, doing some speed work, I started thinking like, yeah, this is the mindset that feeds into it's I'm willing to wake up and do those hard things. One of the reasons I'm willing to wake up and do those hard things is that I've signed up for races that I expect to perform at. So I'm putting in the work to achieve those things.
You've set goals.
I've set goals, yes. And this is where like, if you're not willing, even if you're not an entrepreneur, if you're not willing to set goals and bust your ass to achieve them, you got no hope in hell that you're gonna start a business and run a successful business.
I agree. I think looking at the fitness side is funny. We're talking about the fitness side is a perfect example. It's because you're doing hard things to improve yourself. Most people can just say, I don't have time. I don't have time to do intervals in the morning. I don't have time to work out. I'm too busy with work. But oftentimes, those successful people, the entrepreneurs, not every time, but it's people who are disciplined enough to see something through, to set a goal and stick to that goal. And same thing with fitness. If you have a fitness goal you want to achieve, how many times, I'd rather, for 1-year-old at home and a 2.5-year-old, I could nap instead of work out right now. But when you have that mindset and you have that determination, it's more important, because I think you said something important, which was,
I say everything important.
You say everything important, you do. But it's about, I think, not wanting to lose. And I don't know if it's an internal expectation, because I say to myself, I think I'd be more okay, and I'm being honest here, I think I'd be more okay seeing Mike lose than having my wife see Mike lose. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, there's that motivation for me that I'm like, I have to do this and I have to see this through. And maybe that's because I'm who I am. I'm using my wife as that gold standard to strive towards. Yeah. But that's I guess going back to my why and thinking, I want to provide for my family. Provide is a very vague term. Yeah. I want them to live an exceptional life. I want to take care of my kids. And in order to do that, I have to do exceptional things and very difficult things.
And I think on that, I'm going to speak for you here, and you can tell me if you're wrong, because I will say that I've recognized this about myself. In those instances, I think you're using your wife as a mirror into your own soul. Because I bet that if you quit something, as long as you tried hard, that Lisa would be fine with it. She's sitting here, she's like, no, I'd leave him in a second. No, she
a certain level of self-serving. You are pursuing this for your selfish endeavor. You can mask it by saying you're doing it to provide for your family, but if we didn't exist, you'd still pursue it. And actually, you'd be better at it if you didn't have so many distractions by your family.
Gotta leave your family.
Yeah, you gotta leave the family.
Ignore that.
She's right though. She's not that part.
Yes.
But it's like when you do something for someone and you're like, well, me being selfless because selfishly it feels good.
Yeah.
So it's not so selfless.
Yeah.
So same thing as I want to succeed. Yes, I want to take care of my family, but there's also a level of I want to do great things. And I want to do things that I remember when I first started out in construction, and I've always been very motivated by people not thinking I can do something or not thinking I'm good enough. Or people think, like I was very motivated early days on, people think, well, you're here because you're dad. You're in construction because you're dad. You're working for the company because you're dad.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to prove everyone wrong. And then when it came to television, it was a network exec saying, I don't have what it takes. Well, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Tall.
You're too tall and you're too handsome. You just have, your arms are
too muscular.
Too muscular.
You're going to scare people.
But every time I received a no, there was something so motivating about being told no. Brands. And I've never been afraid of no. I remember even when I was dating before my wife, I was never afraid of a girl being like, no, I'm not interested. But I would always try. And I think that's such an important part of the mindset as well, is that like being told no just means that I'm not done working yet. I have more that I need to achieve. I need to be better. And if a brand or a network says no to me, it's just, okay, what can I do then to make them sounds toxic, but want me or be better so that in the future I don't get told no as much.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and going back to the family sort of as being mirror kind of thing. So I've got a bunch of races that I've signed up to this year, and I'm trying to train for them. And we just got so much going on right now, right? We just launched Point Load Media. Like, we're trying to do podcasts every week. We just had a day of filming.
We have taken on so much, and you already have taken on.
Project Network is growing strong. We just monetized. Like, we're trying to build out deals left, right, and center. And then there's still Hummingbird that still exists, right? Still a $40 million company that got to like oversee. And then I'm trying to run 10 hours a week on top of that. Still want to weight train because I don't want to be like a super skinny runner.
Yeah, of course.
I like the muscles.
Yeah.
I'm a big Arnold fan.
Yeah.
And so I was chatting with Leanne just this past week, and I was kind of talking about, I've got a coach for my running. Just basically periodizes my training and make sure I don't get injured. And if I do, he kind of helps me out and that kind of stuff. I was saying to Leanne, like, I'm getting a lot of stress around, like, I'm finding it hard to fit in a lot of this training, a lot of these runs. Like, I can't just go for a 3-hour run on a Friday. I'm like, oh my God.
3 hours. You could fit in a half-hour workout. 3-hour run's a commitment.
Exactly. I was saying to Leanne, I was kind of leaning to, should I pull out of these races?
Well, you actually said that to me last week. Yeah. I'd like to hear the conclusion.
I didn't care as much about what you thought.
Yeah.
Again.
Wow. I gotta go.
And but it was about, should I get rid of my coach? I was like, I'm having such a hard time. Like, I feel like I just want to run. And she's like, well, no, he can really help you with the races, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, I didn't even go there. And her pushback was like minimal. I know if I said to her, babe, I just can't do this, I need to pull out, she'd be totally fine. She's not gonna be like, you fucking loser, I'm gone.
Yeah.
Right? But no, it took like a tiny little bit of pushback for me to be like, you right, Ian? God damn it. Stop being a little bitch. Keep running, right? So I woke up this morning and did some intervals. Last year, I was doing a training run. It actually wasn't a training run. It was an 80K race, but it was using it to warm up for a bigger race. And it was four 20-kilometer loops, this particular race. And I remember I finished the third one. And 60K, and I was like, I'm just like, my legs are hurting. Like, I'm just doing, and this is common, like you get into these mental states in these really long races where you just start questioning your life in general. It's kind of an interesting spot.
Sounds kind of actually, I bet in the moment, as painful as it is, it's probably
there's a lot
enjoyable.
of introspection. It's cool, yeah.
Yeah.
But I was like, this is just a training run. Like, why don't I just pull out now? Like, I got the rest of the day to hang out with my family. And I started thinking, before I left for that race, my daughter Summer, she told me how excited she was for me to do the race because she was going to get another medal, because I give her all my medals. And you get a medal for finishing. I'm not something special here.
It's the new age just for trying you.
But if you finish an 80K or 100K or 160K, you get a medal.
That's well earned.
It's sizable. But that's what kept me going. And again, Summer would not have loved me any less. But it was that tiny little spark of motivation. And that's where I'm like, I know that is not Summer or Leanne keeping me going in that, but I use them to bounce those emotions off of. Right.
And I think you don't want to take the easy way out, but you're almost looking for, why am I doing this? Why? This is hard. Why am I doing this again? And then you're looking for those little reminders.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that medal means probably nothing to you, but it means something to her. And then you're like, using that to just kind of as fuel to keep going forward.
Exactly. And now, so I'm going to stick with the running examples because I want to feed that into the next step of knowing when to quit, knowing when to cut your losses. Because I think this is something that doesn't get talked about enough with the sort of like winning mindset, is there comes a point where you need to cut your losses.
For sure.
Right? It doesn't mean be so bullheaded that you push right through regardless of what's happening, right? Abandon like all level of, I'm losing my marbles here.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say?
I get it. I think the listeners do too.
They understand. I've lost my words.
Yeah, that's okay.
We're the tradesman.
Yeah. No, you're saying like there comes a time where you have to be able to say, okay, if you're using business as an example, you're like, we are not profitable. We haven't been profitable. At some point, we need to take a look at the overall operations and say, words, and say, it just isn't working.
Exactly. And you need to be able to dissect and understand why, but you can't be so, you need like a level of pride to get you through, but you can't be so prideful or so proud that you can't say, okay, I lost. Right, you have to know when to cut your losses. So this big race that I was training for last year is 136 kilometers through the mountains of Quebec along the St. Lawrence there, and I was targeting a finish time of 24 hours. I just wasn't used to the downhills, and my legs blew up. Like I couldn't function.
24 hours of running.
So I didn't run for 24 hours. I cut at 18. I started just running so slow. I was doing the mental math, and I was like, I'm not even gonna make it. And I knew I wasn't done. I hadn't given it my all, but I knew I was not going to finish in time for the cutoff. Cutoff was 32 hours, right? It would have been 6 a.m. the next morning. And at the spot where I was, I came up, it was a checkpoint where Leanne and Summer were meeting me to cheer me on. And I made the decision then and there, I'd rather pull out now, avoid risking injury for something that I'm not going to complete anyways, right? The state that I was in, I knew I could barely move. Like I was running at like 3 kilometers an hour at this point, which is horrendous. I was like hobbling along, right? Like and I think I needed to be at 5 or 6K an hour to hit from there to the end to hit the cutoff time.
Yep.
Just wasn't gonna happen. So I called it early enough that it took less than a week to recover from that run. Usually those big runs are like 2 weeks, 10 days to 2 weeks recovery. And that's if you don't injure yourself, right? So I avoided injury risk. I still had the next day to hang out with my family. So it was sort of that, I took a bit of a hit to my pride, right?
Your ego.
It hit my ego. I'm doing the race again this year because I need redemption, right? But I'm not going to push myself so hard that I'm going to risk injury. That same mindset is what allowed us to make it through with the panel equipment, right? We had a good business plan. I liked it. We were kind of pushing through. We were picking up work. But we had enough structural issues with the way it was running and then the shock with the financing. I knew, hey, it's time to pull the plug on this. Right. So I was able to sell the machinery, and we were able to sell the machinery at cost, right? Didn't lose any money on it. They were all basically brand new condition. And we were able to divest quickly and pull out, right? But sticking to the mindset thing, it was really that mindset around, I don't know, it's like you gotta know when to take the kick in the nuts. Because it's going to happen from time to time.
Yeah.
Right?
What's the saying? It's like, take your licks?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Take your licks. Yeah, and that's the thing is, it happens. The core of it, you were still in business. Your business didn't fail. You tried to expand into a different area. And I think that's, this one, we've said mindset now. There's probably a drinking game where you can see like how many times they said mindset, where you'd probably be very drunk at this point. But having the mindset to do the hard thing, because mindset. The hard thing isn't, you're like, we've built this great construction, great custom home building company. Okay, now let's do one better.
Yeah.
Because it takes someone with a strong mind to do that one thing, but it's constantly chasing more.
Yeah.
And there's something within us, and I think that's also why we work well together, where we want more.
Yeah.
And that's been, sometimes my wife has said to me, even with building things, she goes, why are you building this the more difficult way? And I'll say, because it's unfamiliar to me and I want to learn how to do it this way. And I take that same approach in life where, for better and worse, there's times there are times I could have done things easier and it would have worked out better. But at the same time, I have learned so well from the more difficult tasks. Yeah. And I think that has made me the person I am today, and also is what's going to inevitably help me achieve my dreams. Yeah. Because in those times, if you can't do the hard things, if you can't be disciplined enough to take one on the chin, to be stressed about finding, I've had nights, plenty of nights, where I've lost so much sleep. I wake up and I just lay there for hours thinking, like, how am I going to make this all work? And if you can't believe in yourself enough, if you can't just say, you don't have a choice, you just have to make it work. And then also the other part of the mindset is marrying someone who can also help check you. Because I will say, and this isn't to pump her tires because I know she's here, but my wife is if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be half the man I am today. Because she has, in times where I am a bull and I will work myself into the dirt, and I'm like, hard work is not something that scares me. But then there's times she's like, honey, you can't keep doing this. This is not sustainable. You have to think of a different way. And then it's those times where it's so important who you choose to spend your life with, to have someone that's going to elevate you and support your dreams, but also call you out on your shit.
Totally.
That's an important part of having a good mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. Your partner in life, for sure. They need to understand you. They need to support you. Find that person.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And if you haven't found that person, keep looking.
Yeah.
You'll find them.
Yeah. And don't settle. Don't settle.
Yeah. And. But yeah, I think mindset. That's it.
Mindset. No, I think ultimately the thing here is that life is hard and relationships are hard, jobs hard. Choose your hard. And there are going to be times, all of it, the best relationships, the best job, that there's going to be times that suck, but it's like weight training. You have to build that muscle. You have to build that shell to be able to get through those hard times.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I just have this obsession I think the little boy in me is like, when I was younger, we struggled a lot. Like financially, our family went bankrupt when I was 4. My parents divorced. It was what people don't expect. They think, Mike Holmes, and they think we had this lavish childhood. But I think that little guy, through experiencing what that childhood was like, I'm like, I want the opposite for myself. So yes, my family, but I believe in myself so much, or I'm so motivated to live a different life than that's just keep going. At the end of the day, no matter what, I have this drive because I know what it's like to not live a comfortable life. And I'm so motivated by not wanting to go back there that I'm like, I choose this suck over that one.
That's well said. So parting thoughts on mindset. A little takeaway, a little nibble.
A little nibble, let's see. Yeah, okay, that's a great one, yeah. That's well said. And this is why you choose your partner wisely. Struggle builds resiliency. I always think, I go back to weight training. When you're struggling, you're literally building resiliency, resistance,
Yeah.
You're building muscle. So in life, it's the same thing. Through those failures, through those learning lessons, you're building resiliency. And then the next time you run into that same problem, it's not going to be as hard.
Yeah.
So I think, again, having that, I feel like every time I want to say mindset, I'm like, don't say, but having that determination, right? Like an encyclopedia over here. Having that grit to get through it is so important.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, struggle is incredibly important. Don't run away from struggle, right? Be willing to go through hard things, be willing to fail so you can learn the lesson. I think for me, as a microcosm, I look at habits as an individual, right? And I put health and wellness kind of as the number one thing. And to me, like, if you're not willing to get up off the couch, to wake up early and invest time into your own health, I don't know how you expect to be successful in business, right? Like, you need to be able to go out there and do uncomfortable things to improve yourself. And that's a really easy, just like, not easy, but it's an easy one to point to just say, like, you need to go exercise, do your mobility, do your cardio, do your strength, like whatever it is for you, go play a sport, like whatever, but do something consistently, improve yourself in that aspect. And then whatever it is that you're striving for, this is specific, it's Trade Life podcast, so we're talking to the trades, but like, no matter what you're doing in life, find books, find resources, start consuming those things so that when you're actually operating the thing that you do, right, whether it's a contracting firm or like sales and marketing, like whatever it is, you can apply that same mindset.
There it is. I do want to say one more thing without trying to stretch this, but you said don't avoid the failure. Like, don't.
Yeah.
I think that's what you said. There was Jocko Willink said something that I might butcher this, but he said, I think it was like, choose your hard. Choose your hard now or choose your hard later.
Yeah.
You choose your hard now and become an entrepreneur and do the difficult things now. And then later on in life, you can live a more cushiony life. You've worked hard to build a business that now you don't have to answer to a boss all the time. And you can choose when you vacation. You can choose where your family lives. Or maybe you choose a cushiony life now. You're like, I don't want the responsibility. I work my 9 to 5. That makes me happy. But then you have to live with that for the rest of your life. So it's a lot of people are short-sighted and don't think about how is this going to impact me in the future. And they are trying to avoid those difficult times or that job that maybe makes me nervous or intimidates me, makes me anxious. Do the hard things because that will pay off with dividends.
Exactly. Well said. And yeah, it takes sacrifice. It takes dedication, a lot of long hours, a lot of mental suffering, if not physical, hopefully not physical suffering, depending on what you're doing, but a lot of mental suffering, lost sleep, stress. If you aren't willing to go through all those kinds of things, stick to the 9 to 5. I guess, right?
And it's not for everyone. And that's the thing. And the one thing we didn't touch on, which this is like depending on how we edit this or which episode we put first, is makes your brain sparkle. If you're chasing the thing that makes your brain sparkle, which I love that you said that. It's like that you're passionate about, the hard times aren't as hard. They're still going to be hard, but because you're passionate about it, it's going to be that much easier to push through.
Exactly. Yes.
Still talking to them, and I'd love for you to touch on how to overcome being embarrassed or to make a mistake publicly because you've been shamed publicly, as a child. And so how, in order to get that mindset, you actually have to stop giving a fuck.
Yeah.
And if you can just touch on that. I guess it takes grind, but there is a component to that mindset that has to also have fun and be silly and be brave.
Yeah.
If you're
Are we gonna reiterate that? We'll just leave that.
I think reiterate it just in case it doesn't pick up, because we don't know what.
Yeah. Okay.
But in case that didn't pick up, what my wife was saying was, there's a part of me. So I'll use it. I have an example that I'll never forget, and that when she says something like that, it's okay. In order to grow, you have to not care. You have to not give a fuck in a way. Because when I say I don't care, it's I don't care about what people think of me, because you might have to do things that might make you look silly, that your high school friends might make fun of you for, that others might deem as embarrassing, or you're a phony, you're not actually that person, you're whatever it might be. But I think of a specific example of when I first started out and I just started doing public speaking. I was like a year into dating Lisa, and it was, we'll say 1 a.m, and she's in bed, I'm in another room. She wakes up, she said, why aren't you in bed? And I'm like, I'm just anxious. She's like, why are you anxious? Well, I've got a speech in 2 weeks, and I'm really nervous. I don't like public speaking. And she laid into me. She's like, you need to man up. This is an incredible opportunity. She's like, some people would kill for this opportunity. Either do it or don't do it. But if you're going to do it, have fun with it. And she said the things, my ego inside was screaming. I was like, oh God, this hurts. She hit the nail on the head, and everything that I needed to hear. And that was like, just enjoy the experience. This is the path I'm choosing. It's not going to be an easy path.
Yeah.
And okay, public speaking, it's like one of those things that people always say, this is one of the biggest fears that people have is around public speaking. You could say that about anything. I'm just using public speaking as an example. But when I shifted my perspective on, I'm going to enjoy this, and I'm going to have fun with it, everything changed. And I can apply that to every difficult thing in my life where I was not familiar with something. And instead of saying, what if I fail? I'm not going to use that. What if you fly? No, but truly, like, what if you succeed? What if you actually do the things? What if the goal you set out to, what if you actually achieve that goal? Fuck what if you fail? Yeah. What if you succeed?
I like that. It's a good way of flipping it around. Yeah. Yeah. I 100% agree. Like there's an aspect of, I can't remember if we touched on it earlier, but you need to put yourself out there, and you have to be willing to put yourself out there, right? And if you're not comfortable putting yourself out, and it's that taking that step outside the comfort zone, like whatever it is, right? Like feeding back into the health and wellness piece, fitness, all that kind of stuff. It's trying to achieve something, right? The very act of trying to achieve something, you are going outside of your comfort zone. By definition, it's something that you're not already good at. If all you ever do is stick to things that you're good at, you're never going to grow, you're never going to achieve anything.
And what a boring life that will be.
My God. You got to keep pushing yourself.
Yeah.
That successful entrepreneurial mindset, you can't give a fuck so much that you're willing to throw in the towel.
Yes.
Too often.
Yeah.
There has to be a savagery inside of you that says, fuck this, I'm not quitting, I'm too prideful, I'm going to win this. Right? Yeah. It's like you need this like comfortable combination. The little shit that like people are going to judge me for doing this.
Yeah.
Like get rid of that. Yeah. Right? You got to be comfortable with who you are, put yourself out there. Failures, unacceptable.
No, I agree. I agree completely. And that's, I think it's one of the things that, and my wife off camera touched on this. I don't know if it picked up, but like as a kid, I was bullied a lot. So it very much became, we were very poor. So I wore a lot of hand-me-downs, stuff like that. People bullied me for my clothing. So it became, as I got older, I was always worried how I looked. I was
Yeah.
worried, am I wearing nice clothes? Am I wearing, and as like a teenager, a young adult? And then you realize it gets to a point you're like, first of all, nobody cares. Nobody actually cares. Second of all, who cares what they think? Like, who are these people to you? Because at the end of the day, you have your circle of people who their opinion actually matter. And if you're putting that weight on other people's opinion, whether that's online, whether that's acquaintances, then you have your priorities a little bit
I will say, off topic, completely out of the side, and we should probably end with this so I don't get in trouble.
Yeah.
I feel really sorry for people that care a lot about what they're wearing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are wasting a lot of brain cells on something that does not matter. Oh my
For
God.
sure. 90% of the time I wear work clothes now because it's just more comfortable and I can't get away with wearing track pants outside of the house. But you're right. That more came from like a little bit of, a lot of bullying as a kid, but you're right. Who cares? Just like whatever's comfortable.
You know the type of people up there.
Oh, yeah.
They're just like, oh my God, nobody cares.
There's more important things to worry about.
Yeah.
Life is hard. Don't make one of the easy things hard.
And it's not even that nobody, there's actually a lot of people that cares, but it's only this like ridiculously those aren't the people that you should be seeking approval from.
That's it. Yes, you're right. There's a lot of people that care, but they don't matter.
Bam, Mike.
Ian?
Thanks.